Hello everybody, it's that college football guy here with another video. Yeah, I just delivered here in Somerset, Pennsylvania after waiting a while to get unloaded. But it's time to talk about Michigan State, and a lot of people are saying that Mel Tucker is on the hot seat, or he could be on the hot seat at Michigan State. Look, I wrote it down here. His career head coaching record. Started head coaching in 2019 at Colorado, was 5-7. Then the COVID year in 2020. Michigan State, he was 2-5. He was 11-2 in 2021, but he was back to 5-7 in 2022. So they want to know, is 2021 an aberration? Or is 2022 at 5-7 what it's going to be? Because his career record's 23-21. So for Michigan State, a bowl season, 7 wins would go a long way to helping Mel Tucker to keep his job. But that buyout, because of that huge contract, I don't even know what it is, but I have a funny feeling it's ridiculous. So we're going to do again what we do with all these schedule preview videos. We're going to go through the non-conference games from last year, non-conference games from this year, which one's tougher. And then we're going to go through the entire schedule from 2022, last year's schedule, with scores, and then this year's schedule. And decide, is last year's schedule tougher, or is this year's schedule tougher? And with the key games at home or on the road, we'll take a look at all this. So first and foremost, last year's non-conference games. They were home at Western Michigan, home against Akron, and at Washington. So 1 Power 5, 2 Group of 5s. This year, they're home for Central Michigan, home for Richmond, and home for Washington. 1 Power 5, 1 Group of 5, 1 FCS. Last year's schedule was tougher. That's pretty... on the road at a Power 5 versus being at home, and you got two... and even though the other two games were at home, you got Group of 5 versus a Group of 5 and an FCS. So yeah, last year's schedule was tougher. But let's look at the whole schedule. The whole thing. For Michigan State. For 2022 schedule. Home against Western Michigan, they won 35-13. Home against Akron, they won 52-0. That was the bright spot for the year for Michigan State. They went 5-7 this past season. At Washington, lost 39-28. Home against Minnesota, lost 34-7. On the road at Maryland, lost 27-13. Home against Ohio State, lost 49-20. Home against Wisconsin, won 34-28 in 2 overtimes. Then they had a bye week. At Michigan, lost 29-7. At Illinois, they won 23-15, so that's actually a pretty good win. Home against Rutgers, won 27-21. Home against Indiana, 27-21 or 29-21. I wrote it kind of fast, but anyway. Home against Indiana, lost 39-31. That was heartbreaking. And then at Penn State, lost 35-16. You know, they were 5-5 before the last 2 games of the year, and then they lost in home against Indiana and then at Penn State. Just that Indiana loss just was bad. Now this season, what's their schedule? Home against Central Michigan, home against Richmond, home against Washington, home against Maryland, 4 straight home games. At Iowa, then they get the bye week. At Rutgers, home against Michigan, at Minnesota, home against Nebraska, at Ohio State, at Indiana, home against Penn State. This schedule's tougher. I mean, okay, Wisconsin and Iowa, you could say which is the better team there. You can go who's better, Wisconsin or Iowa. You could swap out on that. Is Illinois tougher than Nebraska? You could, do that one. But the fact is, Michigan, Ohio State, home or away is a tough game. But you're at Minnesota. You lost to them last year at home. You barely beat Rutgers at home, and now you got to travel on the road to play them. You lost at Maryland by 2 touchdowns, and now you got to play them at home. You got Nebraska at home. You got Indiana on the road. You lost at home to them. Look at their key games. Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. I think the Illinois game was a key game, as was the Washington game. So that's 5 games on their schedule. So they were, of those 5 games, 4 of the 5 last year were on the road. Actually, I wouldn't probably take the Illinois game off. I'll probably say the Maryland game was more of a key. Yeah, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, Maryland, and Washington. And it's a non-con. It was a key game. You're playing them again this year. And again, lost to Washington, lost to Maryland, lost to Ohio State, lost to Michigan, lost to Penn State. Only one of those games at home, and that was to Ohio State, and you lost 49-20. This year, key games: Washington, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. This year, those same key games, 3 of the 5 are at home. But I look at the schedule, I just think it's tougher because you lost to teams at home, and now you're playing them on the road. I mean, Ohio State, this is not a schedule prediction. This is just a preview. So I'm not saying this, but you can pretty much say Michigan's going to be an L. Most likely, Ohio State's going to be an L. Penn State's going to be an L. You played Minnesota at home and lost 34-7. Now you got to face them at Minnesota. You face Washington on the road. Now you get them at home. But the problem is Penix is still there. He didn't leave Washington. He's still there. Michael Penix is still there. And he's going to light you guys up. They were just an incredible offense last season. They're going to keep right on doing what they were doing. I see the fact that I look at this and non-conference last year was tougher than this year, but I think their overall schedule this year is tougher because you had a lot of games at home last year. You had a lot of games last year on the road, but I'm looking at the fact is that the games that you have, you're not going to beat Penn State. I'm sorry, Michigan State fans, I'm sorry. You're not beating Penn State, you're not beating Ohio State, you're not beating Michigan. So take those 3 games completely out of the schedule. You got beat down by Washington last year, and you're going to get beat down by them again this year, even though they're at home. I still think you guys are going to lose. So that's 4 losses, but it's not a prediction. You got blown out by Maryland, you got them at home. That could be an advantage. You barely beat Rutgers, now you got them on the road. You lost to Minnesota at home, now you got them on the road. You lost to Indiana at home. You got them on the road. The games you have a chance to win, most of them are on the road. You got Central Michigan and Richmond. Washington, probably a loss. Maryland, probably a loss. Iowa, who knows, but that's on the road at Iowa. Rutgers, you barely beat them last year. That's on the road. Michigan, that's a loss. Minnesota, you lost to them last year. Now you got to play them on the road. Nebraska at home, they could be potentially a loss. Ohio State, that's a loss. You lost to Indiana at home, now you're going to play them on the road. And then Penn State's another loss. Folks, it doesn't look like it's going to be a good year for Michigan State. This is not a prediction, but you see them being bowl eligible out of this? Because I don't. I think like I said, for the final bit, last year's non-conference games were tougher than this year's. But the overall schedule is tougher this year than last year. But let me know if you disagree. Let me know what you think down in the comments. What do you think about this? Which one do you think? Do you think non-conference was tougher last year or this year? Think the overall schedule was tougher last year or this year? Let me know down in the comments. So thanks, everybody, for watching the video. Man. Hopefully they'll give me a load soon here because I've been sitting for a while. I just got unloaded. I'm waiting. This machine's been quiet, not a sound. I figured I'd probably interrupt the video. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching the video. As always, I said comment about non-conference and the whole schedule, which is tougher. Thanks everybody for watching. Please, if you haven't done it yet, smash the like button, hit the thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm, helps the video be seen by more people. And subscribe to the channel. Almost to 400 subscribers, slowly but surely on that crawl to 1K to get this thing really rolling. So thanks everybody for watching. Hope everybody has a great Monday. Be safe out there, and please be good to each other.